In order to create custom shapes, we can no longer use the part menu. We have to use what's called the part design menu. So the first thing you're going to need to do is select part design from the drop-down menu. Now, in order to create our sketch, create our part, we need to sketch it first. So if we look up top or somewhere along your toolbars, we should be able to choose this sketch option. And it's going to ask us what you want the base plane to be. All we really need to do is figure out what we're designing and what the most efficient plane to be looking at is. And what I mean by that is, let's say I'm going to design a table. If I want to design the top of the table, it's probably most beneficial to view this from the top, which in this case would be the XY plane. Because if I were to describe a tabletop to you, you're going to be thinking about it from the top down. If I started to describe the legs of a table to you, you're probably going to be thinking about them as if you were viewing them from the front. Because if you looked at a table leg from the top or bottom, you're really just going to see the cross section. So if I wanted to design a table leg, I probably want to look from either the right side or maybe the front side, and that's going to change what plane I'm looking at. But if I'm going to start with the tabletop first, let me go and look at the top, which tells me here when I'm viewing from the top, I'm looking at the XY plane. So I'm going to choose XY plane. And I'm going to wind up with this kind of sketch area. So there's a variety of different options. I can add like lines by themselves. I can add arcs by choosing different points. I could add circles along the same way. There's plenty of things you could do. So I'm going to undo this. The one that we're going to spend the most time with is this one right here. It looks kind of like 4 red dots with these kind of 3 white lines, and it's called a polyline. Polyline basically just means if you click and move and click and move and click, it's going to go ahead and it's just going to keep adding, and you're going to create whatever custom shape you want. When you are done with the Polyline tool, make sure you click on your first point, but the first point must be yellow. Once you do that, you should be able to move the mouse away and you have your custom shape. But you don't have any dimensions on this, you don't have any kind of angles, so we have no idea what the geometry of this is. That's where the second line of tools comes in. There's a variety of different ones. I'm not going to go over all of them. I'm going to explain to you the ones that are probably the most beneficial. Vertical constraint here just means any line that I kind of click on with this tool selected will be locked into being completely vertical. So you'll notice if I click on these, they are forced to become completely vertical. This one here is horizontal. So if I wanted some of these lines to become completely horizontal, I simply click on them, and those will be locked in. No matter what I do to other portions, they'll be locked into the vertical and horizontal orientation. There's also parallel. So if I wanted, let's say these 2 lines here and here, I want them to be parallel. I could choose my parallel tool, click one, click the other, and it will force them to become parallel. Same thing with perpendicular. You'll notice this is almost a 90-degree angle. So if I choose these 2, it'll lock them into a 90-degree. Equals here simply says I want them to be the same size. So let's say I wanted this to be the same length as this. I simply click and click, and it's going to force these 2 to be the same size. So equivalent in size. These 2 are not too, it depends. With this one, you can force a horizontal dimension. So if I choose a horizontal line and say like 4 inches, it will make it 4 inches. But you have to be careful, because if I choose something that's at an angle and say 4 inches, it will not make it 4 inches long, it will make it 4 inches horizontal. If I have a diagonal line, I need to choose the diagonal tool option. And by selecting that, if I make that 4 inches, then it will make the diagonal length 4 inches. And likewise, vertically, if I choose a vertical line, and I want it to be 2 inches, no harm, no foul. But if I choose a diagonal line, and I say 2 inches, it will not be 2 inches, it will be 2 inches vertically. So you have to be real careful about what you're specifically looking for. The last one is probably the angle tool. Let's say I wanted this and this, the angle between these to be like, like 100. Well, if I choose these 2 right now, it's currently 112. I'd like it to be 100. If I hit enter, it'll lock that in. So you play around with your shape a little bit. Whenever you're done and it's the dimensions you want, it's quite simple. You come over here and you click close. And then if we zoom out a little bit, you will see you now have your sketch. However, it is just a sketch. It's a 2-dimensional sketch. It's really just a bunch of lines. You need to give that some thickness. So all you need to do with your sketch is come over here where you see this kind of yellow block floating above a white square. And if you click that, you're basically going to extrude it. You're going to give it some kind of thickness. Right now the thickness is about 0.39 inches. If I want to make it about half an inch and hit enter, I now have my custom tabletop. I mean, it's kind of ugly, but beauty's in the eye of the beholder, I guess. So the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to rename this, and I'm going to call it tabletop, and I'm going to hit enter. So now I have my custom table shape, and I can go start working on the legs and then cutting out the custom shape in the middle.